The police department called me a while ago and asked me to come over here and find out who's making all the racket.
I plead innocent of all charges.
Well, for a dirtbag, I'm all right. Mr. Jet, pardon the growth.
Pardon the growth, yeah.
This mic turn this way. You gotta operate your own controls? What the hell kind of operate?
Evan controls the mic on and off, but y'all can control the volume of everything, headphones. Hey David, who all can you get in?
He's working on it.
He's working on it. Benjamin, I really appreciate you making it.
I'm gonna.
And we'll get you on too.
You have to put me on there. I'll be the camera dude tonight, man.
Just like radio.
Can you get it on over there?
Yeah.
Oh,
I could never stand it.
we have seen.
I can't handle that.
Have you got us all on?
The last time I was down here and Dale called in, he called in on my cell phone, I held it up to the mic.
Yeah, well, we've got that fixed.
You've come a long way, Tommy.
Yeah, we got.
Tommy's always been technically inclined, hasn't he, Ron?
Technically inclined. No, Marshall.
Would Tommy ever have any dead air?
No, he can talk.
No way. Never any dead air. No, Johnny's right, but we got that taken care of on the phone, man.
25 seconds.
This is WFLI night, and we've got the gang together, some of them, and we'll have more of them as the evening progresses. And by my side over here is Ron Daly. Remember Ron Daly?
Ted, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You're looking great.
I tell you what, the first time Ron and I met, Ron had his fingers in his ear along with Ray Wallace down in Nashville, Tennessee at Ma Dillard's boarding house.
And we were in broadcast school together.
Right.
You're driven in from Smithfield, Tennessee, you and Dale Anthony.
Exactly.
And all of us were going to a broadcast school in Nashville, Tennessee. Mid-South.
Yep.
And did it get any better than that? Everybody lived at a boarding house. We worked during the day with regular jobs.
Right.
And went to broadcast school at night. And then after school, went to radio stations and watched some of our favorite DJs play music.
Thank you for saying, you said everything that's exactly how it happened, really.
And do you remember who some of those favorite DJs were back in the...
Well, I tell you...
When was this? Late 50s, early 60s?
No, early 60s.
Go,
no, it's 1960.
You could go to WSM
right.
if you could work your way around the guard, work your way in. And Ralph Emery was a young man.
Was he?
Yeah.
Would let you sit in with him, but he'd say, look, now I'm going to have some stars in here. Don't say anything.
Yeah.
And he'd let you watch him.
Yeah, he'd let you watch him, yeah.
And you get to meet,
You
just
still
kind
watch him now on TV.
You kind of see Porter Wagner or somebody come in, kind of wave at him from the side.
He's right. Yeah, Dale and Ray Wallace and I were up at WSM one night, and sitting on the couch was Patsy Cline and Skeeter Davis.
Really?
Yeah.
And remember, Tommy, over at WLAC, you'd go over there. Remember, you had 50,000 watts on one side with WSM.
Right.
On the other side of town, you had WLAC radio
with 50,000.
with John R.
John R.
Oh,
John
man.
Richburg. Yeah.
Hoss Allen. John R.
Yeah, man.
Ernie's Record
Ernie's
Mart.
Record Mart. Yeah.
No other place but Ernie's Record Mart. And what was the one in Gallatin?
Nashville and
and Randy's Record
Mart in Gallatin.
In Gallatin, Tennessee.
That nighttime, wasn't that like a 50,000 clear channel station? Had a big...
WSM was, but LAC was not clear channel, but they were 50,000 watts.
As a young man, the first records I ever bought was from Randy's Record Mart.
Were they really?
Yep.
And if you look
this
back,
happens to be Johnny Eagle, I might add.
If you look back, Johnny, remember they were packaging.
Oh yeah, I got about 5 records.
You get a package, and you get a few hits in there and a couple of other good records in that package.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
John R. was a super salesman on the air, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I loved him.
So you bought it from the store, or it was mail order?
No, it was mail order.
Okay.
Mail order. Ernie's Record Mart had a place on Church Street, and when we were on at 2222 State Street on the in the West End in Nashville. That's where as a matter of fact, that school
They had
building.
a couple of
is-
rock radio stations in town at that
Oh,
time
yeah,
too.
yeah, they were, yeah.
Everybody in the broadcast school wanted to be on the rock radio station for the news story. See, if you called in a news story, they'd actually put you on
Put
the
you on the
air,
air, yeah.
and it'd say your name.
Yeah, and we had a little 15-minute program. The school bought every week that a different disc jockey or a different student got to be the host, and that host had an announcer. Yeah, and it was WNAH. Remember that, Ron?
It was on the air in
Yeah,
Nashville.
yeah, in Nashville, WNAH. That station's
So
still
when you
there.
went to broadcast school, you actually got to be on the air from the school.
From the school, you did a 15-minute show, and there was one person that played the disc jockey role, and the other one played the announcer role and read the commercials and that type thing.
What role did you play, Tommy?
I can't remember. I can't remember. But I'll tell you this
Tommy
much.
was rocking even in radio.
I was
school.
rocking in radio, and I'll tell you this much. I worked hard all week long to do that 15-minute show, buddy. I mean, we
You
wanted to
didn't
get
get
it.
your 15 minutes of fame,
Give
did you?
my 15 minutes of fame, and your close personal friend Dale Anthony
Yeah.
happened to be in that crew.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Mike King went to work up there in Nashville for a while after he left Fly or went
No,
somewhere.
yeah, well,
remember?
Mike went to school at
I know.
broadcasting school, same place we did.
Right.
He
And,
worked for WMAK.
MAK,
Yeah,
back
yeah,
late
yeah.
60s,
Yeah.
early 70s, yeah.
Yeah, and Johnny hired him.
I think he's hanging out in Jamestown,
Yeah.
Tennessee now.
Hopefully, we're gonna get a call from him.
He's listening right now. He's
Yeah,
watching.
he's watching.
He's watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's working for Mike King Radio now.
Yeah, yeah. And Johnny, let's talk a little bit about Johnny.
Let's talk about Johnny.
The swooping Johnny Eagle.
Johnny, when I met Johnny, he was Johnny D. And he'd been there about 2 months before I got there. And
There being Jet Fly? Or
yeah,
in Nashville?
right.
no,
Okay.
this is Jeff.
Okay.
No, we didn't meet at. Johnny didn't go to the boarding.
No, I didn't go to the boarding school.
The broadcasting school. We stayed at a boarding house.
Sounds like a Martin and Lewis comedy. doesn't
Yeah, it does. It does.
But you know what? I
Johnny-
did go to a disc jockey school. A lot of
You
people
did,
don't know
yeah.
that. And I went to Keegan Technical Institute.
Oh, did you? Where
in
was
Memphis.
that? In Memphis.
It was later taken over by Memphis State.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it was a very good school.
So you did. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you did learn something there, didn't
Yeah.
you?
And my first gig was in Fort Misery, Alabama,
Fort Misery, Alabama.
popularly known now as Fort Payne.
No, are you serious? No. No. Johnny is from, Johnny is
Tommy could
from.
be the best straight man in the world.
Oh, yeah, Johnny is from Cullum. Johnny is from Cullum, Alabama.
That's right.
Cullum, where they, they
yeah.
cull you. You know, not everybody gets in.
Yeah, you have to explain it, Tommy.
You have to
You know what
explain
I want to know, Johnny, Rick? I want to know how Tommy Jett talked Ben Cagle into being one of his cameramen tonight. Ben Cagle is here in the studio with us.
Let me say this about Ben Cagle. Ben Cagle is one of my closest, best buddies, and he did a thing on me when I left the Legend. I thought I was attending my memorial service.
I saw that. That was great work.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
complimented that so highly, and I never mentioned that I was retiring, but I was leaving the Legend, and Ben came out and filmed that thing, and it brought tears to my eyes. I mean, it was really, and it's
But
still
nobody
running.
could
It's
see,
still
Tommy.
running. Did you see it, Johnny?
Yeah, but nobody could see your tears.
No, nobody can see my tears, but Ben has been told on numerous occasions that people have watched it and said, "Man, that was really something."
It
I
was
mean,
good.
Yeah,
It was good.
You saw
Tommy,
it.
the only
Even for
person
you,
I-
Tommy, it was good.
Well, I was sincere.
We love you, Tommy.
Well,
The only person I know that's retired more times than you is Frank Sinatra.
I've never said retire.
Oh, okay.
I've never said
Or
that.
Brett Favre.
Yeah. Okay, let's move over quickly to Ringo McVan.
Yeah. McVan.
Yeah, Ringo Van. Tell us a little bit about how you came about Jet Fly.
Well, I remember the day, as maybe we all do. Johnny probably doesn't. Well, I'm sure he doesn't remember it. But I'd come to the university, what was then the University of Chattanooga. It was about this time of the year, 1964. It was late August, early September, 1964. Working my way through school, I needed a job, and my uncle, who had a station in South Pittsburgh, WEPG. And he had called Luke Wilson over at WDEF,
Yeah.
or DXB.
DXB.
He was the manager over there.
Right.
And he had called Luke and said, my nephew is looking for a radio job, and he's done some work for me, and he'll make you a good weekend guy. So I went down there and did an audition with Jerry Linger, who was then, I guess, the program director.
Probably.
Jerry Linger felt
Yeah, Jerry Linger felt.
on the air. He was
Oh,
Jerry
yeah,
Linger.
just,
Yeah, Jerry Linger, yeah.
he just lingered on the air.
And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he said, I don't have any, we've already got a weekend guy, Doug Hullender from Appleton around here. And he said, let me call over at WFLI. I'd never heard of WFLI. I was coming from Sewanee, Tennessee, and we didn't go that far.
No,
They didn't go in that
And,
direction either.
No, he didn't go that direction.
And Jerry Linger came back and he said, they've got a weekend spot available. Charlie Darr, who was the weekend guy, had just gone off to the University of Alabama.
That's right.
And you come on out there and do an audition. So I hitchhiked around the mountain. I'd walked down to the Dome building from the campus. Hitchhiked around the mountain. This was before I-24 was there. I said,
No freeways.
and got down at Browns Ferry Road and trying to find O'Grady Drive, and I went in and we did an audition, and the rest is history. 5 years I was there.
Yeah. And I got sick, and you got 3 months on the air.
Right. I was working Sundays and then Sundays initially, and did that for a long time. Then a lot of fill-ins.
Yeah. So
Thanks to this guy right here.
right, and a
He
red
did a
jacket.
good job, too.
Yeah, he did. He did
Yeah.
a phenomenal job, and I've got pictures of him in the lobby of the radio station with Bermuda shorts and a sling blade in his hand. You
I was
did-
I was
He
chasing
cut the
daylight.
he cut the grass,
He cut the
Tommy,
grass.
between records.
I know you did do some.
Anything to make $1, you know.
And as they say, the rest is history, because it turned out to be really a good gig for you, and you got on the Jet Fly Spectaculars and the whole
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah,
nine
got to
yards.
introduce people in the auditorium, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a
You
picture.
even got a jacket that Dale got upset over.
we did. I do. I wish I still had it, but
He's probably watching tonight. We ought to
Yeah.
tell it. We got to
we'll
tell it.
tell it. We'll tell it in a minute.
Well, we'll tell it in a minute. Okay, Rick don't want to tell it right now, but we'll tell it in a few minutes. Yeah, because to me, that's one of my all-time favorite stories. But there's so many things happened at Jet Fly. One involved Ron when we had the lion. Dale always had a better idea. Did y'all notice that how his ideas were always a little bit?
Yeah, they had to be better.
They had to be
Or they
better.
wouldn't have been
And
Dale's
one day,
ideas.
one morning, I guess, because he did mornings, he was going to rip and read or whatever it was he did in the mornings, and there was a story on AP, I think, wasn't it, Johnny, about a lioness in Birmingham, a radio
Yeah,
station
something
there.
like that, uh-huh.
Yeah, DXB had a lion for a mascot at one time, and so Dale thought it would be a great idea if we were to get a lion as a mascot, and so he rips this off the wire service, and I guess by then Johnny was you were program director by then, weren't you? Or
I think so.
yeah, and gives it to Johnny, and next thing you know, Billy Warren drove down and got that lioness
In Birmingham.
in Birmingham, yeah, and brought it back, and
We bought a special station wagon.
yeah,
I remember that.
You
yeah, I remember
With
that,
a wire cage in the
Had the
middle.
call letters written all over it. So later, if you were in high school and you could guess the number of call letters written on that vehicle,
You
you'd
won
be the
it.
winner.
You win
You'd
it,
be
yeah.
the winner.
Yeah.
What would you win?
the car,
The car.
The car. Mr. Benz would take the lion around himself. If you rode with him, he would make sure he got some hamburger meat or something, and he'd stick it behind the passenger seat, and that lion go nuts.
Oh yeah, Billy Joe. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
Billy Joe Royal's calling.
Okay, that's Billy Joe Royal. He's going to call back in about a half hour. Oh yeah, that's signed done by my close personal friend Dion DiMucci.
Everybody's your close personal friend. Have you ever known anybody that did not have so many close personal
Close
friends?
personal friends.
That's right.
I do really, but the show about with Dion was not affiliated with Jet Fly, so we won't go into that. But I did do a show with him at the National Guard Army. You remember that, don't you, Johnny?
Yeah.
The show we did with Dion, that I did with Dion at the National Guard Army.
Right.
A dance couple booked that show. I can't remember.
A dance couple? Oh, you talking about the guy that ran the,
Yeah.
the workout club.
Right.
I can't think of the
I
name of
can't
it now,
either.
but they also danced.
Yeah, they did.
I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
I know a couple of people who are not your close personal friends.
Well, you're one of them.
A couple of former program directors.
Oh, Lord. He could have gone all day without saying that. Oh, my goodness. I don't even have a comeback for that.
Remember when James Brown would come to Chattanooga?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Tommy would always be the one invited out to the hotel to talk
Oh,
to
yeah.
him. And
Yeah,
interview him.
yeah.
And meals later at, what's that restaurant down on MLK, Lamar or something?
Let's see,
yeah.
no, it was, I can't remember now, but, yeah, I was always, invited down to spend time with James Brown, the Fiestas, and Sam Cooke, and Little Willie John, and all those guys, you know, because I had the black audience at night with the night train. Whose idea was it to do the night train? I was the first
You
one
know,
on
I
it.
really don't remember, Tommy.
The Budweiser
Yeah.
night train, you know, Anheuser-Busch.
Is it true that you guys gave away beer at one time?
Yeah.
It was legal to do that. It was
Exactly.
legal.
I drank beer on the air. You know, I would open a beer and drink it on the air.
Why do you think he says hey now for?
Yeah, exactly. We did things innocently that we didn't know that we couldn't do. We just did them, you know, and some
We
things
probably wrote several laws.
we probably did. Yeah, I'd say we broke several laws.
No, I said wrote them, not
Oh,
wrote.
wrote them. Oh, yeah, we wrote them too.
When I first came into Chattanooga, Johnny, I remember this very well. I was so impressed with Tommy's car because he had his name on the
I know.
side
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
Remember that?
Him and Dale Anthony.
Yeah, had his
Dr. Dale on
name.
the wing.
What,
Yeah.
what was your slogan on there? again?
No, just Tommy Jet, WFLI Radio News.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even read. I couldn't even
News?
read.
You never
Yeah.
did the news?
I never did the news. Back then we did a spot summary, didn't we, Johnny?
Yeah.
You know,
What?
just a brief little spot
The
summary.
headline, it was headline.
It was headlines.
I remember
basically.
thinking that is so cool to have your name on your car like that. Oh, man.
Did you really?
And the call
You know,
letters from the
yeah,
radio
yeah,
station.
yeah. Well, I want to make sure everybody knew who I was, you know.
We were one of the first radio stations at it on our own meteorologist.
Yeah, we
His
did.
name was Peter Jeter, the cross-eyed
Cod meter
meter
reader.
reader.
Yeah, and you know who came up with that?
Yeah, Stevens, not Stevens.
No,
Say
Johnny
that after a
Midnight.
couple
Johnny
of
Midnight.
beers.
Yeah.
Johnny Midnight, John Stevens, Johnny Midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was something else,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Remember
he
the
was
time
good.
that Johnny Midnight had a problem? And,
Yeah.
and Mr.
Oh.
Benz had the meeting, and maybe Johnny called the meeting. But what they did, they put him on a different shift since he had had a problem.
I sat in for him.
And they said, instead of calling you Johnny Midnight, we'll just call you Johnny Daylight.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was genius move.
Genius
right?
move,
Yeah.
right, right.
We'll have no
Yeah.
problems now.
Yeah, he got in a little problem there, and we had to make some adjustments there for a couple of weeks for
It was primarily with the opposite sex.
for the opposite sex. Yeah, no doubt. And someone else that that would be remiss if we didn't mention, and that's Nadine Gray. You know, and I've been thinking about. I've tried to get it to find out if she's still living. I don't-
Sales manager.
Yeah, she was the first female salesperson in Chattanooga, and then later, when we first started, when Johnny and I first started, Leon Beavers was the sales manager, and Nadine took Leon's place as the first female sales manager in Chattanooga, wasn't she, Johnny?
I believe.
And when was this?
Yeah. This was in 1961.
Early 60s, yeah.
Yeah, early 60s, 61, 62.
She was gone time I got there, by the time I
Yeah, Ringo. Yeah, you were
a late bloomer.
late bloomer down the road. But we still think of you as one of the original fly people, fly
Well, we
guys.
have to. He has a jacket.
And he has a jacket. Yeah,
There's a story
I've got
behind
a
that.
Dale Anthony jacket.
Sounds like a jet fly spectacular.
We got to tell the story. You gotta
You know, everybody picks on Dale. Dale was a great morning guy. He was a great disc jockey. He ran number 2 to Luther all those years. And
yeah, number 2.
Mike King was his news guy.
But
Okay.
Bell loved him.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're not going to tell that story. We're not going to tell that story. We had. It was the first Jet Fly Spectacular. I believe.
1965.
I think it was the first one.
1965.
And you'd been sick. I was doing your show that on the afternoon, whatever. But Who was the lady that lived next door that did the cleaning of the station? Doolin?
Miss Doolin.
Miss Doolin.
Miss Doolin.
Miss Doolin was the, and her family, but primarily Miss Doolin, would come in there every day to sweep the floors and clean the place up and come into the newsroom and clean out everything, and was a part of the family.
Knock the arm off the turntable.
Yeah, Tommy would always get upset when she'd come in when he was on the air. Everybody else didn't care, but Tommy would get all upset when Miss Doolin would come in.
I agree.
When he was on the air.
Yeah.
But, so Johnny had these blazers. It was a trade out from the Coke company up in Cleveland.
Oh, was it?
Hardwick, yeah.
Outlaw, Jimmy Outlaw.
And had a WFLI.
Law, not outlaw.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
Jimmy what? What
Outlaw.
was it?
Jimmy Law.
Jimmy Law. Yeah, Jimmy Law.
Anyway, it was a nice red blazer, had WFLI #1 on it, that all the jocks were going to wear to the first Jet Fly Spectacular, where we came out on stage and introduced different stars. And Johnny called me and said on a Friday before the first show that afternoon, and said, "Come on over and get your jacket." I didn't know I was going to get one, so I come out to the station to get my blazer, and Dale, bless his heart, is standing around in the lobby, and Johnny comes out and gives me my blazer, and I'm appreciative of it.
Yeah.
And he said, "Johnny, you're giving Ringo Van, our part-time guy, a blazer?" And Johnny said, "Well, yeah." And Dale said, "Well, I guess you're going to give Miss Doolin one too, aren't you?"
A real team player.
He's watching. I'm pretty sure he's watching. So
Dr. Dale.
yeah, Dr. Dale.
Dr. Dale
Yeah.
Anthony.
He says, "Hell, Johnny, you gonna give Miss Doolin one too?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that really upset him, didn't it?
Yeah, they got him. Yeah, and
I didn't have a pot to pee in. That blazer kept me warm all winter long.
Actually, back then we were supposed to just go out and introduce the act and not try to put on our little own thing. And Johnny told Rick to go out and introduce Leslie Gore, and he went out and hugged her and got to talking to her about her college days at wherever she was going to college. And
So what's your point?
my point is that you were killing too. My point is that you were killing too much
I
time
understand.
with your
understand.
personal situation rather than introducing Leslie Gore to sing the song.
You know, a man's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, I know it, and you did what you had to do.
It didn't do any good, you
No,
understand?
Johnny was. I must say this, because Dale and myself and a lot of the disc jockeys back then weren't walking the straight and narrow. You know, we were kind of in the middle. So, and Johnny was the one.
Are you
who,
about to tell us something we don't know?
No, I'm trying to beat around the bush a little bit and make it as clean as I possibly can. But Johnny was the one who had to keep everybody straight and everybody halfway, composed and walking the straight.
We didn't realize at the time what a job that Johnny had.
No, we didn't.
Oh,
I
man.
appreciate it now, but then I didn't really realize what a job he had of staying sober mainly and keeping things straight, And so we had to kept him busy doing that. And Rick would introduce somebody, and then Dale would introduce somebody, and I would come out and introduce. We all had our own little thing going, But the Jet Fly Spectaculars, I think, were something that made one of the biggest impressions in radio and in the Chattanooga market ever in the history of broadcasting, really. It was that big. Oh, yeah! That's signed done by my close personal friend, Dion DiMucci.
Everybody's your close personal friend. Have you ever known anybody that did not have so many close personal friends?
friends.
That's right.
Shake your hand, Tommy Jet.
Really, the reason I said that is because, and I'm sincere about this. Of course, Ron and I go back further with Ron than I do anybody in this room, because
I'm not going to tell all the stories.
no, don't tell
You're
all the
safe.
story.
You're safe.
Yeah, but Ron and I go back to when I was we were just kids, really, and we didn't know what we were doing in Nashville at the time. But we arrived there on a Sunday afternoon. Dale Cantrell and myself arrived at the Ma Dillard, we called it Ma Dillard Boarding House at 2222 State Street, and we went to Mid-South Broadcasting School, and we arrived there on a Sunday, and I remember Ron Arnold and Ray Wallace. We lost Ray a few years back, but Ray was my dear friend for many, many years, even after we all went their different ways, and I was a pallbearer at his funeral, matter of fact. But both of them had their finger in their ears, and I was wondering, what is that? Is that how you become a radio?
Yeah. Instead of earphones,
explain that, Ron.
you'd have your hand cupped like this.
Cupped like that.
So you could hear your voice come back. You know,
Yeah.
when you talk on a telephone, you really don't hear yourself because your
Exactly.
voice is always going out there.
Yeah.
But if you cup your hand like this, you'd see old-time broadcasters
Do that,
this when
yeah,
they announce to kind of get a
know
feel
it.
for what these earphones do for you now. you know. I've gotta say this, Tommy. In school, Tommy always stood out. He was always a little different. Always had something going on. You knew when rock and roll came out, he was going to be a star. You knew he'd be remembered anywhere he'd go. You always have been. Now let me ask you, Tommy, do you remember? Let's go back to that story we started to tell before the phone call started coming in.
Let's get this story.
Do you remember being at the Bears Den Drive-In restaurant?
I do, and I didn't want
In July.
In July.
In July, where we're
yeah.
celebrating Christmas in July, and Tommy was dressed as Santa's helper.
Right, yeah.
A thin Santa's helper.
About 140 pounds, yeah. I didn't want
man.
to do that.
People lined up that night.
I know they did. You pulled that one off beautifully.
Man. Every holiday season, they're remembering you now.
Yeah. And the other one that you pulled off was the one at W.T. Grant's. You know, that was a.
Yeah, one time we lined up a promotion. This was just a fun thing because we said Tommy could take a vacation anywhere he wanted to.
Right.
He could go to the Bahamas. He could go to
Hawaii.
wherever.
Yeah.
But he chose W.T. Grant's. That's when they were open, right?
When there was
They closed
When
that
there was a
time. I don't know if we
WT
helped them or hurt them. But anyway, we had a promotion.
Bahamas.
Had a promotion there, and Tommy had his leisure clothes on. He had a
Had a leisure suit on. Right?
it had a fish bowl
Double
with a
net.
fishing pole and suitcases, and lived there in the store for a while. I think they got used to you being there.
I lived there a week. Lived there a whole week. Yeah.
Free
Folks
rent,
got
man.
used to you
Can't
being
beat
there.
Did you broadcast from there? Was it
Yeah,
remote?
yeah, it was a remote. We broadcast there.
Another time, Tommy rode. I've got to tell this story, Tommy. You rode to Athens, Tennessee.
Oh, Lord.
To what was then the Cherokee Drive-In restaurant in Athens, Tennessee. You rode a bike up there.
A bicycle, yeah.
Maybe Nick Smith rode with you. Did he ride
Nick,
with you?
and
David Carroll has
Stanley
a picture
Hall.
of that in his book. David has a picture of that in his book, I think.
Oh, does he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Stanley Hall, remember that?
Yeah,
We were
Stanley.
all up there on a promotion, and we had the listeners guess how long it would take for the arrival, and then they won prizes.
That's true, yeah.
But you made it. You actually lived through that. Yeah.
And it poured down rain the second day. We rode to Cleveland, Tennessee, and spent the night in Cleveland. And got up the next morning and then went on to Athens, Tennessee, to the Cherokee,
The Cherokee Drive-In
Cherokee
restaurant in Athens.
in Athens.
The same company owned the Bears Den
Bears
in
Den, right?
Cleveland.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, and that's one thing that Johnny and the folks at JetFly would let you do. They let you promote and have a little fun
Exactly.
and get the listeners involved.
And we had a lot of fun back in those days, didn't we? Yeah. I remember one of my favorite stories that I tell on Ron is he sold a promotion to a shoe company. What was the name of the shoe?
Wow, I don't remember. Tom McCann, maybe.
Tom McCann. That was it. Had so much going on. Tom McCann Shoe had a promotion, and Ron was going to walk from the city limits of Chattanooga to Cleveland, Tennessee, in Tom McCann shoes. And you know about
But we had other volunteers to walk along
volunteers
with us.
to walk along with you.
But you played an important role.
I did.
The beginning of the walkathons.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you know what it's like to break in a new pair of shoes. And we're not downing Tom McCann shoes by any stretch of the but they were brand new shoes, and Ron was going to show everybody how comfortable it was to walk in a pair of Tom McCann shoes.
But we had a plan.
We had a plan. That's right. That they took pictures of him with the Tom McCann shoes. I think the press was there, TV or whatever, and took pictures of him starting out the walk with Tom McCann shoes. Then I was supposed to come along with tennis shoes and bring him a pair of comfortable tennis shoes.
In case there was any pain along the way,
Right.
that'd be a solution.
and I
Guess
was
who forgot to come along?
Guess who forgot to come along? I probably had been out partying all night that night, and I may have been hungover. I don't know what I was, but I didn't get there.
He sure meant to bring those shoes, I'll tell
I
you
sure had
that.
a good, yeah, I meant to bring them, but I don't think I got there until about and when I did get there, Ron was walking on his ankles.
Oh, man.
I mean, he was, feet,
Thanks.
his feet had already turned.
Thanks to a couple of Marine recruiters, I remember it well. They
Yeah.
helped me get into Cleveland,
Yeah,
Tennessee, and
exactly.
actually complete the walk.
Yeah, Paul Allen and Pete
It was-
Peterson.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was the offer of a new pair of shoes that got him in the Marines.
Oh, yeah, and the other story was, I'm not saying that Ron was soft or whatever, but he wasn't a real
I wasn't exercising every day.
Exercising. He wasn't a muscle man or anything, and he told us Paul Allen signed him up to join the Marine Corps, and we all got the biggest kick out of that because we thought they'd kill him. You
Well,
know?
see, I may have been one of the few people they discouraged from joining. They
Exactly,
said, "Look,
right.
we don't want to do that to you.
Exactly.
We're your friends. We don't want you to come back hating us or something."
No, that's right.
And they actually got another recruiter to do the signing
To do the signing
because they were my buddies. They
Yeah,
did help me
exactly.
on promotions.
Exactly, and they had to give Ron special treatment in order for him to take basic training.
Well, one thing about the
Pass out.
Marine Corps, if you're not in shape when you get there, they'll help you get
They'll
in
help you
shape.
get in
They're real nice to do that.
Yeah.
And they were real nice to me to help me get in shape to start boot
To start
camp.
boot camp, yeah. But the finish of the story is this: is when he came back, buddy, it was a different Ron Arnold. I guarantee you. We thought that we was going to see the soft Ron Arnold that we had seen before, but when he came back, buddy, he was kicking, you know what, and taking names.
You know, they do that for a lot of men now.
Yeah, they
still
do.
that.
I
in
admire.
there.
You know,
Yeah.
that really made me admire and respect Marines more than I did before. Simply because I saw what they did for you.
They've got their ways to help you. I
They
guarantee you,
do,
they've got their
buddy.
ways to-
And when Ron came back, he was lean, mean, and a walking machine. I'm telling you. Yeah.
I like the way he tells the story, don't you, Tommy?
Yeah.
He'd make a great color man for
Yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah, he was. No doubt about it. He was kicking, and so that was a Marine. And he moved back in the. Did you move back in the room?
I lived at the radio station for a while. We had a little apartment. Talk about small. I mean, it was like a closet.
Yeah, a bedroom and a bathroom.
Yeah.
I lived there for 2 years.
You lived there for 2 years, and
Yeah.
I lived there a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was an interesting station, to say the least. We
No
would have
doubt.
more people coming. Johnny, elaborate on this. You know, Tommy would be on the air. More girls would come out there. All of us were single, you know, and all these people would be coming out to the radio station. How did you put up with that crowd?
I don't know.
Mr. Benz, that's another whole
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
another
it's-
whole show.
It was
But-
it was
but
a
I-
different
I
era
wanna- yeah.
entirely.
Yeah. I want to say this about Johnny Eagle. Johnny was one of the best organizers and the most proficient programmer following through on things of anybody I've ever known. He put up with all of us for one thing, and of course Mr. Benz, he actually put up with Mr. Benz too, as we all did. I loved him, but he had some problems that were hard to deal with. But Johnny put all the jet fly spectaculars together. He did the follow through on all the promotions that we had. Around in times that I'm out when I'm doing personal appearances at shows and things, one of the promotions that most people bring up is when we mail those radios out.
That
You
was,
know.
that was a heck of a
Oh, I
deal.
remember that.
Yeah, you
But-
remember that?
But one of the great things Johnny did was selecting the music.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah.
I wasn't the only one.
Well, you had a
well,
certain order that you had to play the
Yeah.
music in.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the
ABC.
listeners might not have known that.
A, B, C, and then Go Record,
DEF
DEF,
Hall of Fame. Yeah. When we first started at Fly, before Johnny became program director, though, we
Wow.
used to have music meetings. Was that a picture of the?
Yeah, it's not for you,
Oh,
Tom.
No.
no. But
You
we had
get your own, Tommy.
we had music meetings where Mrs. Benz would attend, and Johnny and Dale and I, and we would pick out, didn't you remember those meetings?
Oh, yeah,
Matter of fact, we had them on
Yeah.
Tuesday, every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We had the meetings, and so,
We changed, records changed every week.
yeah, you had to fill out a little.
One or two records would change in the system every week.
Exactly. Mr. Benz kept a list of that and could tell you exactly what songs.
So you had to play them in order.
Had to play them in order.
Had to play them in order.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
couldn't just pick it random. Be watching this show right now, Tommy.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure
They
they
could be
are.
watching.
Yep, they could be. You never know. You never
I
know.
think Cagle looked nervous over there. Got a nervous twitch while ago.
Yeah, Ben,
Mentioned investigation, you know. Oh, man.